All right, let's see.
Is Nancy coming on?
No, she's not. It's just us three.
Okay.
I think we're live now.
If we are, then it said one of the instructions that I was reading talked about making sure that you guys were muted, that you mute Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the lag is going to be about 20 seconds. The conversation here will be about 20 seconds behind. Excuse me. The Zoom conversation will be 20 seconds ahead of the conversation on Facebook.
Well, there's a button on my screen that says live on
Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, we're live now.
Okay.
I mean, we're on Facebook. Apparently there's one person watching. So
Okay.
I am going to give it a second. Candace always says, hey, you should give people time to get into the room. So we are giving people time to get into the room and start watching this video. One of these days, I'm gonna have this nice little split screen set up, man. And I'm gonna be able to watch what's happening on Facebook and watch what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm asking for too much. So, what else do y'all have scheduled for today?
A gazillion Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Meetings on top of meetings, back to back.
But it's Friday.
Friday. Woo-hoo. All right, so let's see. Let's give it maybe I have 10:07 on my over here. So maybe let's give it to right at 10:08 and we'll get started.
Okay.
Is that cool with you guys?
Yep.
All right, cool. You know, I realized that I did not send this to the staff again. One of these days, I'm going to remember to do that.
That we what?
You know, y'all always tell me, hey, you should make sure you tell the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't sent us the new schedule for things for Friday. Yeah, because I did tell my staff the first Fridays is about to become every Friday.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm bored. Let's do something.
Mm-hmm.
I just shared it on my personal. That's pretty cool. Makes it super easy for you to share as well.
Nice.
All right, man. Let's jump on in. So welcome everybody. My name is Jeff Brown. I'm the Vice President of Development and Marketing for Partnership Against Domestic Violence. And obviously, like many of you guys, we are living in this new normal with COVID-19, but it's still important for us as an organization to figure out new ways for us to bring our content to people. And so here we are having a Zoom meeting, each one of us from our homes. And we're going to have a conversation about trauma bonding. And to be fully transparent with you, I knew absolutely nothing about trauma bonding when until about 2 weeks ago. We were in leadership meeting, and Katha and Sam, I forgot which one of you said it, but somebody was like, hey, trauma bonding. And I'm like, hey, what is trauma bonding? And so here we are. And so I've done a little bit of research, but I know significantly less than what you guys probably know. And so before we jump in and before I answer before I ask any questions, I would like to tell the audience, if they do have any questions or whatever, feel free to comment in the live on Facebook, and we will see those, and we'll do our best to answer those questions for you. We are playing with this new system and technology, so if we miss your question, we apologize, but at the very least, we will make sure that your question gets answered. But my two amazing guests, I always love having conversations with you guys. Miss Katha Blackwell, Miss Sam Macedo. Katha, just take a second, tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do for PADV?
Well, at Partnership Against Domestic Violence, I am the Vice President of Shelter Services and Supportive Housing. I oversee our emergency shelters in Gwinnett County and Fulton County, as well as our supportive housing programs that we have.
Cool. Sam, what about you? What do you do?
Hi, I am Samantha Macedo, Vice President of Prevention and Outreach. And for PADV, I manage the legal advocacy program, our teen dating violence prevention program, and our outreach program.
So cool. Before we jump into the trauma bonding conversation, I would just like to give you guys a second to just let the audience know. Obviously, we're living in this COVID-19 space, right? What I have been determined to make sure that people know that our organization is still here. We're still out there and we're still open. So could each of you just really quickly, what are you doing in your sphere of influence within the organization? What are your departments doing, and how can people still connect with us from your perspective right now?
Well, right now in the emergency shelters, we have staggered out our clients. We've placed all of them into their own room for the most part. Additionally, we are now placing clients into hotel stays, extended stays, in order to assist them, because our crisis line has increased the number of calls in regards to domestic violence. And so we're trying to do as much as we can to help people stay safe during this time, but also social distance. During this time, one thing that we would greatly appreciate is food and masks. We did have a couple of volunteers who made masks for us, which have been very helpful. And we would welcome any kind of food donations that you all may have during this time, especially for those of our clients who are in extended stays.
Thanks. So Sam, what about you? What's going on in your department that people need to know?
Well, like Katha mentioned, we had to make some big adjustments. All of our outreach events, of course, that were in the public and the community had to be postponed. So we're talking about the presentations and tabling events, all those awareness and education events had to be postponed, put in the back burner. But as a result of that, we jumped on a lot of the online platforms to continue spreading our information. So sharing information through the educational platforms from schools, connecting with all of our partners, making sure that they had visuals and information about infographics, about what's going on with PDV. We're still open, our crisis line is still open, those kind of things. Our legal advocacy program also had to make a lot of adjustments for Fulton County. The process of obtaining a protection order is now virtual. So all of our legal advocates are working remotely, helping survivors, apply, fill out the paperwork, apply for a protection order, help them with any interpretation needs by using our language line. And then, of course, our Teen Dating Violence Prevention is using Instagram, their Twitter account, and producing a lot of content to continue spreading information about, warning signs of abusive relationships for young people, etc. So it's been an adjustment, but we're still very busy. We're still putting a lot of information out there and helping survivors be safe.
So more importantly, it sounds like both of you guys are saying we're open, and if you need help, call, right? That's what I gathered. And I appreciate you guys. That was not part of the conversation that I sent you guys. But I think it's just important for us to remember to tell survivors that we're here, and then we're going to remain here as long as they need us. So we're going to jump into this trauma bonding conversation. Man, if either one of you, feel free to answer any question that I ask. This is really just meant to be how, defining this new term or this new phrase and really making it real for people. So what is trauma bonding? And really just help me and us understand it in its most basic, simplest form. What is trauma bonding?
So trauma bonding in its most basic form, and this isn't a new term. This term has been around for a while now. It's fairly new to my understanding. But in a nutshell, trauma bonding is if you could just imagine being injured in some sort of way. Our bodies are naturally designed to look for comfort when our bodies are injured. And so what happens in an abusive relationship, when your abuser injures you and he's already isolated you, you have no one around you, have no one else to comfort you, what happens is you get attached to your abuser because he brings comfort to you after the incident has taken place. And that could be through flowers, through I'm sorry, through, you know, hugs and different things. You know, I'm sorry, I just slapped you. And so our bodies are naturally designed to seek comfort. Unfortunately, sometimes the person we're seeking comfort from is our abuser. And so that's where all of a sudden you have clients who, not all of a sudden, but you have people who are in abusive relationships who for some reason are disconnected and bonded with this person. And that's one of the reasons why they feel stuck, or they feel like they can't leave, because this person who has caused a lot of drama in their life, has physically abused them, has also been the one to give them comfort after the abuse has taken place.
Sam, that sounds a lot like which you spend a lot of time in conversations that we have talking about the cycle of violence. Can you talk about what the cycle of violence is? Because when Katha was explaining that to me, or to the group, that really sounds like, hey, I'm in this moment, I've just been abused, but then right after that, hey, it's never going to happen again, I'm so sorry, here's flowers, right? Is that to you kind of modeling the cycle of violence?
So the cycle of violence is another way to explain what is happening in abusive relationships, and I believe it was brought about by Lenore Walker, but she talked about how there are three phases in the cycle of violence. So there's the first phase is walking on eggshells, and it's a kind of a round around sort of thing. So there's walking on eggshells. In this case, the person who's being victimized knows that there's something happening, that any little thing can become a trigger for what's next, the explosion. So the explosion, it doesn't necessarily have to be an event of physical abuse. It can be an event of verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and so on. And then the last phase is the honeymoon period, and that's when the abuser is, again, like Katha mentioned, asking for forgiveness, promising they'll never do it again. And this, again, it's a cycle. One of the things about the cycle of abuse is that sometimes it's not the best way to predict what's happening, but because it's not always cyclical like that. We think, it can make us think about abuse in that cyclical kind of way, but the important thing is that there are different phases, and that yes, at some point the abuser is asking for forgiveness, that they'll never do it again, but unless they address those issues and where those issues are coming, the abuser I'm referring to, where those issues are coming from, it's just going to continue happening.
Thank you. So why is this such an important topic when trying to understand domestic violence?
I would say this is an important topic because we always have the question of, why does she stay? Why is this, what's the hindrance from her leaving? And it's more than just the financial aspect of having the means to leave or trying to figure out a safe place to go. It's more than that. There's a bond that has taken place with this relationship. When you talk to survivors who have been through abusive relationships, it's not that they necessarily wanted the relationship to end. They wanted the abuse to stop. They love this person. They care about this person. He's as abusive as ever. However, they wanted the abuse to stop. They didn't want the relationship to stop. And so our goal in helping them understand why this is such a struggle, even after they come to us, sometimes they're still battling it. It's because they've been through this trauma bonding process and their abuser has become their comfort. They don't have a best friend to run to or someone else who's going to say everything's going to be okay, I'm going to give you a hug. Their abuser has been that main person who's been doing that because they're so isolated. And so it's so important for us to understand how important it is for family members and friends to not abandon those who are in abusive relationships, because they need you more than ever. They need you more than ever. So it's really important that we share with the community and let them know that when it comes to domestic violence, even if it seems like she continues to go back and return, don't abandon her. Don't ignore her phone calls, because at some point in time she will be ready to leave. But even during that time frame, somebody else has to be that level of comfort for her.
Mm-hmm. I think to Kathy's point, there's something that breaks when a survivor is telling their story and the person who's listening to the story says, well, why don't you just leave? I think there's something there's something that breaks there. And with us doing this talk today, we're just trying to make sure that the community understands, like Kathy mentioned, we need to be supportive of survivors.
You know, and it's amazing. So Sam, you know my heart, and you know, the one thing that pisses me off the most is when you hear somebody talk about, well, why doesn't she just leave? Like, Urgh! And so, but one of the things that Katha described in that feeling of isolation, isn't that in it of itself something that the abuser has created, right? It's that distancing, that, hey, your parents don't care about you, you know, your friends are hitting on me, I'm the only one that cares. Isn't that in and of it, like, the abuser is forcing him or herself to be the only source of comfort or bonding? Am I right in my understanding about that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is the design. And it's not that abusers have this playbook, because a lot of them do the same thing. It's like, are y'all reading the same script?
So there's no manual, right? Like, it's not
no
a
manual.
You know, hey, here's this abuser play sheet, and on
right, this
on
is what you do.
10, this is the play we're gonna run.
The majority of them do the exact same thing. They isolate you. They isolate you to think that they're the only one for you. They're the only one who cares about you. They're almost like an instigator. Like, if you have a dispute with a family member or a friend, they'll say, see, I told you, they don't care about you. I told you, that's the way she is. I'm the only one that cares about you. You see? So if you're continuously hearing this kind of verbiage, and they're continuously telling you these lies, eventually you start believing those lies, that no one cares about you, that I'm the only way for you to survive, that there's no way for you to leave me. If you continuously hear that, no one else is pouring into you some positivity or saying to you, no, you can do this, no, you can make it, you'll continue to believe those lies.
So again, not a question that I was supposed to ask you today, but Kathy, you talked about how survivors leave and go. How am I, as a friend, supposed to support a family member through that journey, through this process? Sam, please, either one of you guys jump in, because that to me seems like it's hard, right? If I'm a family member and I love you, how do I continuously see and watch you jump in and out of situations that are life-threatening for you?
Well, I would say that it's important for you to safety plan with that family friend. Because if you've seen that she's going to go back, it takes about 7 to 8 times before someone leaves and goes back, or leaves for good, or they're not going back. It takes 7 to 8 times statistically. That's what the stats say. During that time, your goal is to safety plan with your friend. Talk to them about, hey, you know, if you all get into a fight again, where can you go in your home to be safe? What steps can you take? Do you feel comfortable calling the police? Can we set up a code word of some sort during this time to help you in the event that you need me? That's something that you can do, because you know she's going back, she's gonna be in that situation. Talk with her about, hey, what can we do to stay safe? Okay, you know he has a gun in the house. Are the bullets there with the gun? Is there a way for us to separate those, so in the event that violence breaks out, he doesn't have the bullets right there quickly able to shoot at you? It's about talking about those things. Talk to her about it, because we have to stay where the client is. If the client is still in the mindset of going back, okay, we have to walk along with her. We can't pull her out and bring her all the way to this safe place, this safe home, a new beginning, if she's not in that mindset. So we have to walk along this process with her and really safety plan with her. And we have thanks to Sam, we have a safety plan on our website, which I use in the shelters. So yeah, that's what I would say. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, well, go jump in here, Sam.
Well, there's actually a lot of things that that someone, you know, a friend, a relative can do to support a survivor. As Katha mentioned, it's so important to safety plan. If you don't feel comfortable, I mean, there's always something that you can do. Safety planning is something that a survivor has started within themselves because been in this abusive relationship, trying to keep themselves safe from this abusive partner. So they've kind of already started this process, and part of safety plans is just exploring other options. So there's a lot of things that someone, again, a relative or a friend, can do to help support that survivor. You can help them connect to PADV, help them feel comfortable in reaching out, calling the crisis line. A lot of what we see in our work in the courts and in support groups is that if that survivor has a support network, they are more likely to go through the process of getting a protection order. They're more likely to stay on track to heal from the abusive relationship. Part of what we're doing here today is helping folks understand what is trauma, how, first of all, how widespread trauma is. We work specifically, PADV works specifically with domestic violence related trauma. But when you experience trauma, and we're experiencing trauma right now from COVID-19, but when you experience trauma, there's feelings of anger, confusion, self-blame, all those things. If you had a friend that just will tell you, I'm here to listen to you, to believe you, and you're not to blame for the abuse, that's one of the biggest things that a friend or a relative can do. And then help that survivor understand that it's, if things are escalating, sometimes as a friend or relative, we're just seeing the very tip of the iceberg, things that are, maybe the survivor has been hiding, and then they couldn't hide it anymore because their abuser exploded at a family reunion. And so we're just seeing really the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot more under the water that's going on. But if you're noticing a warning sign, if you're noticing that, that there's something else going on, then helping that survivor by listening to them, by pointing them to PADV, are some of the biggest things that you can do.
So, does a person have to be in a physically violent relationship to show signs of this type of relationship? In the context of the trauma bonding that we're having this conversation about today, does someone have to be in a physically violent relationship to have all these other things happening in their life?
I would say no. Words can be just as powerful, in comparison to bruises. And so if someone's calling you out your name every day and demeaning you and talking down to you every day, then I think that's or screaming and yelling at you, that's traumatic. And so I would say the same. I would say that it's the same. It's the same. Mm-hmm. You're still dealing with that hurt. You're still dealing with that pain. Mm-hmm. It's almost similar to what several people do when they feel down or they've had a bad day. Some people go and eat. Some people go and drink. Everyone is looking for comfort. And when it comes to trauma bonding, it's unfortunate, but the abuser becomes that one who brings that comfort, sadly, after the abuse has taken place, because they're so isolated. So I would say yes, that it can be a relationship that doesn't have the physical abuse aspect, but the verbal abuse aspect. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, trauma is really just a deeply distressing, disturbing experience. Mm-hmm. So if you had a traumatic event where someone is emotionally abusive, has explosions and is emotionally abusing you and verbally abusing you, that's a traumatic experience, and that, so that the next time that it looks like that might happen again, we immediately have this reaction because it's triggered by the memory that we experienced in the past. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a physical experience.
And so I have another next question here, and I appreciate you guys so much, and I appreciate all those who are watching today. And we see all of your comments here in the comment section. If you have any questions that you'd like us to answer while we're here, please, throw those in right now. I have about two questions, maybe three max, because you guys know how I am, and you guys say something that's amazingly awesome, and I have like, "Ooh, teacher, call on me" moments, and I want to talk more. But yeah, so audience, feel free, if you're watching right now, throw your questions in the comment section, and we'll be sure to get to those. And we appreciate the comments that are already there. But Katha or Sam, what are some of the indicators that friends and family need to look out for when we're, whether we're talking about a trauma bonded relationship or just an unhealthy relationship or an abusive relationship, period. What are those warning signs that we really need to look out for? Because we're all stuck, in the house with each other. And so we may be having those conversations with people over the phone, or we may be in the house with some of the folks that we know that are in abusive relationships. So what are those warning signs we should be looking out for as friends and family?
I would say you should definitely look out for, if for some reason you're not able to reach your family or friend member, that there may be an issue where she may not have access to her cell phone, or things have escalated within the home. I would look out for how the conversation is going. If you do get to talk, is she able to talk to you while the abuser is in the room? Is she able to communicate with you or text you? Does she sound fearful? Does it sound like the conversations have been cut short? I would say I would look at those things. Those are somewhat of red flags, I would think, in the event that there's an escalation of abuse taking place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with those. I think when it comes to someone, a survivor, justifying the violent behavior, justifying their abuser's behavior, by saying things like, "Well, I usually rile him up or rile her up," and so kind of like repeating that sort of victim blaming rhetoric that abusers use to not held accountable for their abusive behavior. So if you notice that that's something that, again, your friend, your coworker, your relative is doing, that's another warning sign. And to Katha's point, a lot of us, are sheltering at home, but for survivors of domestic violence, that's not a safe place. So if they, if they seem just nervous, if they can't really, spend too much time on the phone or communicating because they have things that they need to, do for their partner. Just thought of another one. Oh, if here's another one, like, for example, if during this time of that we're sheltering in place, if their partner refuses to get tested, even though they're displaying symptoms of COVID-19, if they're refusing to follow the instructions of sheltering in place, those may be some other more subtle warning signs of what we're living through right now. I think just that power and control driven behavior.
So I think, and I do want to highlight, Jules Curry in the comment section talked about look out for changes in behavior. Body language is key, and sudden lack of contact with that person are signs that they kind of look for in this type of relationship. So Jules Curry, we appreciate your words, and I am glad that you are a victor, and you've thrived now that you're out of your domestic violence relationship. So congratulations to you and Octavia. We are excited that you guys are out of your domestic violence relationship. So keep fighting, and we appreciate you guys and love you. So my final question to you guys is, what's the one thing you want to tell somebody? Right, I always like to end with just giving you guys the floor as our experts that are in this field. I always just like to give you the floor to talk to that one survivor who's watching right now, or that one friend who has somebody that they know in a violent relationship. So I'm just going to give you the floor, Katha, then Sam. Talk to that one person in any way that you choose to.
If you are still in an abusive relationship, my words to you are, you can get to a safe place. There is a way to have a life that is free of violence. We've been in this field for over 40 years, and I promise you, there are women who have been where you are, who have gone through what you've gone through, who have hoped for their abuser to change, and he has not. And they got free, they got out, and now they're living a peaceful life. They're in their own place, they're working, they're able to take care of their children and provide for their family. So if that has been a doubt for you, if that's been a concern as to whether or not you can do that, I promise you it's true that you can. You can. And if you want to call us to just talk to us, our number is 404-873-1766.
That's wonderful. I think what I will say is that, well, yeah, you don't deserve to be treated this way. And trauma is something that it's an abnormal event, and what you're feeling, if your abuser is making you feel crazy, if your abuser is making you feel incompetent, that's part of the abusive behavior. And we here today, if any of what we said today resonated with you, we encourage you to reach out to PADV. We encourage you to get some additional services, whether that's a support group, whether that's counseling, and you don't deserve to be treated this way.
So actually one person, before I go, because I will add my message to survivors as well, but there was one comment one question from Ms. Harrison. She asked, how can we help other friends understand trauma bonding?
That's a good question. There's a list of books out there that focus on trauma bonding. Mm-hmm. However, we don't have the titles in front of us. Sam may have them, but if you go onto Google, you can actually Google trauma bonding, and you can do trauma bonding - domestic violence and look it up that way, and it'll show you an array of different information regarding trauma bonding to help educate your friends or family.
Yes, I mean, if you're the book reading type, which I know I am, so I had them ready, but Googling something that's simple, I think the way that Katha explained what is wrong is very easy to kind of connect the dots from there. But there's some great books out there. The Body Keeps the Score is one, and I pulled up another one called the it's here. Empowering and healing for it's empowering and healing for battered women. And again, there's some great books out there, and we just barely scratched the surface here. So, but if anything resonated with you, we encourage you to do your own research and reach out to PADV.
Yeah, and I think, I think Ms. Deborah, you're right on the right track with wanting the information, because I think that's the key in and of itself. And anytime we look at trying to help a survivor of domestic violence, getting the information and getting the facts for ourselves first, so that when that person is ready to have the conversation, we're loaded and we have it, and we're not having to scramble and say, oh, hold on, just call this person or call that person. We're ready to be that survivor's advocate. And so for me, I think my message to, even if you're not a victim of domestic violence, it's always just understand that you're part of the community. You're part of that person's community, and that person's going to need you at some point to get out of this violent relationship. Well, Katha spoke about it earlier. It may take 8 times for that person to say, all right, I'm done and I've had enough. Well, that person's going to need you, or we need you as an organization to be there and stand beside that person and walk with them, and understanding that, yes, your health is valuable and you may need to take a mental break. But we need you. We need you as advocates. That survivor's going to need you as advocates. It's hard as hell to get out of a violent situation alone, and that's what PADV is here for. Is to kind of stand beside you and walk with you. But that person's going to need a community, and they're going to need somebody around them that's going to speak positivity into their life, like Katha talked about earlier, and pour into them. So we appreciate everybody that's watching. The comment section is kind of blown up. Of course, you guys would start this awesome conversation in our comment section, as we are. about to end the live, but our commitment is that every week from here on out, for the foreseeable future, I'm not going to commit to the rest of the year, but every week from here for the next month and a half, we're going to bring a different conversation to you guys. And so we appreciate everybody that's in the comment section, and they're having this great conversation here. I encourage everybody to visit our website, padv.org, for more information. And then if this is something that resonated with you, or even if you know a survivor and you need to start having that conversation with them, I encourage you as the advocate, you as the friend, to pick up the phone and call our crisis line 404-873-1766, to just so that you can be the most knowledgeable advocate that you can for your friend. So we appreciate you guys. Sam and Katha, love you so much. You guys are amazing and awesome. Everybody that is watching this video, please know that we love you, we care about you, and if there's ever anything that PADV can do for you, feel free to reach out to the org. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.